Principal Velthar had presided over the Galactic Youth Academy for 47 cycles, and in that time, he had never encountered a situation quite like this. He sat behind his crystalline desk, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession, a sign of extreme stress among his species, as he reviewed the incident report for the third time. Susan Martinez stood before him, arms crossed, her posture radiating defiance. To Velthar's trained eye, the human girl appeared completely relaxed, yet somehow dangerous. It was unsettling how Deathworlders could project such contradictory signals. Beside Susan stood Lucas Chen, another human, though his demeanor was distinctly different. He kept glancing nervously at Susan, occasionally wincing at nothing in particular. Principal Velthar had learned to recognize that expression. It was the look of someone who had witnessed something terrible and knew more was coming. "Miss Martinez," Velthar began, his translator rendering his words in standard galactic common. "Do you understand why you've been summoned to my office?" "Because Crixenal is a spoiled brat who can't handle losing?" Susan replied, her tone flat. Velthar's mandibles clicked in disapproval. "That is not how we frame interpersonal conflicts at this institution. Crixenal of House Drexamar has filed a formal complaint stating that you physically assaulted him during the zero-gravity athletics assessment. I didn't assault him. I won the competition. By grabbing his sensory stalks and using them to propel yourself to the objective marker." Velthar read from the report. "Witnesses state that Crixenal's pain screams could be heard through vacuum-rated helmets." Lucas cleared his throat. "To be fair, Principal, the rules didn't specifically prohibit contact with other competitors." Velthar's eyes swiveled toward Lucas. "Mr. Chen, your role here is as a witness, not as an advocate." "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir." Lucas fell silent, but Susan shot him an appreciative glance. The principal continued. "Miss Martinez, Crixenal comes from one of the most influential families in the Drexamar system. His species is classified as Category 2 on the Sentient Fragility Index. Your species," Velthar paused, consulting his datapad, "doesn't appear on the index at all because the evaluators considered Earth too hostile for the evolution of spacefaring intelligence. You are 47 times stronger than Crixenal, have 3 times his bone density, and your pain threshold exceeds his by a factor that our medical equipment cannot accurately measure. So what you're saying is I should have let him win because his daddy's important and he's weak." Susan's brown eyes narrowed. "That's not how we do things on Earth. That is precisely the problem." Velthar's voice rose, his translation device crackling with emotional overflow. "You Deathworlders arrive at our institutions with your barbaric notions of fair competition and survival of the fittest, causing chaos wherever you go. This is a civilized society, Miss Martinez. We do not resolve conflicts through physical dominance." "He started it," Susan said simply. Velthar felt a migraine forming behind his primary eyes. "How exactly did Crixenal initiate this conflict?" Lucas spoke up again, despite himself. "He told Susan that humans were primitive knuckle-draggers who only got into the academy because the Galactic Council felt sorry for our backward species." "Words, Mr. Chen, merely words. Hardly justification for violence." Susan's jaw tightened. "He also said that my grandmother, who was a war veteran, was probably too stupid to understand basic technology, and that humans should stick to manual labor since that's all we're good for." Velthar sighed, a sound that came out as a high-pitched whistle through his breathing spiracles. "While regrettable, these comments do not warrant a physical response. In civilized society, we respond to verbal provocations with dialogue and mediation. On Earth, we respond to disrespect with consequences," Susan replied. "I gave him a chance to take it back. He chose to double down. And that," Velthar said, his voice taking on a formal tone, "is why you must apologize, not just to Crixenal but to his entire family. They have demanded a traditional Drexamar apology ceremony, which I have agreed to facilitate. It will take place in the Grand Assembly Hall with the entire student body in attendance." For the first time, something shifted in Susan's expression. Lucas recognized it immediately. He'd seen that look before, right before she'd demolished 3 senior students in the combat simulation, who'd thought it would be funny to gang up on the weak little human girl. "You want me to bow to him?" Susan asked quietly. "In front of everyone?" "The Drexamar apology ceremony requires the offending party to kneel before the offended, acknowledge their transgression, and pledge subservience for a period determined by the offended party's family. In this case, House Drexamar has generously limited it to 1 academic cycle. 1 year of being his servant. A symbolic gesture of remorse, yes. Lucas watched Susan's hands curl into fists. He'd tried to warn the principal, tried to explain that humans, especially human girls who'd grown up in the rough neighborhoods of Earth's megacities, didn't respond well to forced submission, but administrators never listened. "No," Susan said. Velthar's 4 eyes widened in shock. "I beg your pardon?" I said no. I'm not apologizing, I'm not kneeling, and I'm definitely not serving anyone for a year. Susan stepped forward, and despite being less than half Velthar's size, the principal found himself leaning back. "Here's what's going to happen instead. You're going to tell Crixnell and his fancy family that the complaint is dismissed. You're going to remind everyone that the athletics competition had no rules against physical contact, and you're going to add a rule about verbal harassment to the student code of conduct." "Or what?" Velthar demanded, his authority finally reasserting itself. "What will you do, Miss Martinez? Attack me as well? That would result in your immediate expulsion and deportation back to your Deathworld." Susan smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Velthar had ever seen. Lucas recognized that smile too. He took a step back. "I won't touch you, Principal. I don't need to." Susan pulled out her personal communicator. "See, while you were busy trying to intimidate me, I was recording this conversation. Every word. Including the part where you admitted that you're giving preferential treatment to a rich student. The part where you're trying to force me into servitude because I won a competition fairly. And the part where you called my home planet a death world like it's an insult." Velthar's skin shifted from its normal blue to a sickly green. Susan continued, her voice level and cold. "My uncle works for the Galactic News Network. My aunt is a lawyer specializing in discrimination cases, and my grandmother, the war veteran Crixnell insulted, she's friends with Admiral Zhang, the human who negotiated Earth's entry into the galactic community. I wonder how they'd all feel about this recording." The office fell silent except for the hum of the environmental controls. Velthar's mandibles worked soundlessly as the implications cascaded through his mind. The Galactic Council had been very clear. Humanity was to be integrated carefully, diplomatically. Any hint of discrimination or exploitation would be taken seriously. Very seriously. "Perhaps," Velthar finally managed, "we have been hasty. Upon further reflection, the incident does appear to fall within the bounds of acceptable competitive behavior." "And the apology ceremony?" Susan asked. "Cancelled. I will inform House Drexamar that their complaint has been withdrawn due to lack of evidence of wrongdoing." "And the new harassment policy?" Velthar's shoulders sagged in defeat. "I will propose it to the faculty council immediately." Susan nodded, satisfied. "Good, then we're done here." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and Principal? Next time Crixnell or anyone else wants to talk trash about humans, you might want to remind them, we didn't get off our death world by being weak. We did it by being too stubborn to quit and too mean to lose." After the humans left, Principal Velthar sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he opened a message channel to his assistant. "Draft a memo to all staff," he said wearily. Topic: Special considerations when dealing with Deathworld students. Subtitle: Why we should never ever force them to apologize unless they actually want to. In the hallway, Lucas fell into step beside Susan. "You know you just scared the principal of the most prestigious academy in the galaxy into backing down, right?" Susan shrugged. He should have known better than to try that with someone from Earth. "You didn't really record the conversation, did you?" Susan grinned. "Of course not. But he didn't know that." She held up her communicator. "I was actually just checking my messages from home. Grandma says hi, by the way." Lucas laughed despite himself. Humans, he thought. No wonder the galaxy wasn't ready for them. Sometimes he wondered if they'd ever be. But as Susan had said, too stubborn to quit, too mean to lose. That was humanity in a nutshell, and after today, everyone at the Galactic Youth Academy would remember it. Principal Velthar certainly would.